Thank you, eBoard, for all being here. You know it. Thank you, cast. This is going to be fun, and, let's enjoy it. It's a live shoot. Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm Spencer Sachs. Coming up on tonight's show, the NFL season is heating up and just 7 weeks remain before the playoffs. The Unstoppable panel joins me to break down all you need to know. Our panelists will also take you through the latest in the NBA, where there have been plenty of surprises. Then our team previews the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And as always, stick around for Unstoppable's Top 10. All of this and more on Unstoppable. Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm Spencer Sachs. Here's a quick look at some of your headlines. The race for Paul Skeens' rookie card is heating up. The Pirates have offered the person who pulls the card a massive package, including home plate tickets for the next 30 years. Good luck, baseball card collectors. In the NHL so far this season, Alex Ovechkin can't be stopped. The Washington Capitals winger has started off the year scoring 15 goals, continuing his march to the crown of the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. Ovechkin is only 27 goals away from breaking the current record of 894, held by the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And breaking tonight, the Commanders are one step closer to coming back to Washington, D.C. The Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources approved the bill to lease the land surrounding old RFK Stadium by a vote of 17-2. It is expected to go to a full Senate vote in the coming weeks. And with that, let's bring in our panel, Mark Achker and Rami Hanash Jr. to take you through the latest in the NFL. Mark, Rami, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, pleasure to be here.
Let's start off this year. We are 11 weeks through the season, and tell me, who is in this playoff push?
Yeah, obviously, AFC, NFC. Let's start with the NFC real quick. There's two divisions, I think, that are really close. I would say the NFC West and the NFC North. All those teams are still in for contention, so I think we need a couple more weeks to see what's going on. I would go Packers, Seahawks, 49ers, all in the mix. Obviously, I think the Lions are going to easily make the playoffs, and the Vikings are a big question mark for the NFC.
Sure. Rami, what do you think?
Absolutely. And just to clarify, those two races are contested, but in two very different ways.
Yes.
We got the North, who is very, very good. We think all three of those teams could make it besides the Bears. And then the West, anybody.
They basically all have the same record.
It's essentially the same record. Arizona, I know they lead at 6-4, but they still have to play Seattle twice, and they still have to play a couple other divisional games as well. So it's still completely
come down to
up
the
in
wire
air.
for sure.
Gino, coming up with our first call-up, he comes in quoting, "We won the game. We know how much was at stake. We're trying to turn our season around. We had a bye week, and we've just got 8 games ahead of us to put ourselves in the position that we want to be in. This is just a step in the right direction for us, so I was very ecstatic and happy for that." That tells you there's confidence in that locker room.
Yeah, for sure. The Seahawks are definitely looking good right now. They're 5-5. That division we talked about is very close. And all those teams down the stretch are going to be playing each other. The 49ers, the Rams, the 49ers. All of them are going to be playing each other. Personally, I think the Cardinals are going to win the West, but I think it'll be very close. If you look at all the schedules, everyone except for the Cardinals has very rough games. Obviously, that stacked NFC North division.
Mm-hmm.
They're lined up this year. The Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, all tough games for everyone else. So, and the Cardinals have to play the Patriots and the Panthers, which I think are free wins. I don't know. Rami, I know the Seahawks fan in you is going to tell us.
Let me tell you, I had a wonderful Sunday, okay? I had a great Sunday watching these guys. Going to San Francisco. We haven't beaten San Francisco in the last 2 years, and so it was really great for Gino to go in there. That's his first career win against San Francisco, by the way. Going in there, making us at 500. Going up to 5-5. People were saying the season's over after last week. They said our season was over, and now we're in contention to win the division. We have Arizona at home next week, so no bias. I think Seattle's going to win this division. I don't know how deep of a playoff run they make, but I would be ecstatic if they got to 10, 11 wins and won the division.
Well, on that same conversation of we're on that bubble, who's on the flip side? Which teams are just going to not make it?
I'm gonna take a risky one here, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this Bengals season. I think they're over. I think it's time to rethink what they need to do on defense. I know they're at 4-7, but they're just too far outside of the bubble. The teams I could still make it. Maybe for like the Dolphins, for example, I could still with Tua back. I could see them turning things around. I could see the Bears. Maybe in some sort of miracle.
I think so. They just lost to the Patriots.
I understand they just lost the Patriots on some Joey Sly field goals, but I think that they could make some late season push with their defense. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's one of the sleeper teams I have in the NFC.
Mark?
It's a tough one. I mean, I would honestly have to go with the Dolphins, kind of what Rami said. I think with Tua back, Jalen Waddle, my fantasy team, we're starting to pick things up. So I think in that the AFC is going to be close. I think it'll be down that last wildcard spot between them and actually the Broncos.
Really?
I know the Colts are in contention, but I don't really trust them coming down the stretch. So I think that 7 seed is going to be between the Broncos and the Dolphins.
I mean, that locker room also with the Broncos, they've been riding
They're doing
high.
great.
I mean,
Bo Nix,
Pat Certain is very much in bullish on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, but he called him Bo Nix is him. Bo Nix is him. I told him, man, you're just trying to win MVP, not even look like Offensive Rookie of the Year right now. It's looking like MVP. Just a testament to the work he puts the work in.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix, wow. Offensive Rookie of the Year. First, early on this season, we were saying Jaden Daniels, we were saying Caleb Williams. I mean, now Bo Nix, who knows, saved my fantasy season. I mean, what a surprise story. I'm very happy for him and the Broncos.
They've been balling out for sure. I think that Jaden Daniels can't be ignored. They both are right there at around 2,200, 2,300 yards on the season so far. You got to take a look at Joe Alt. I know he's a lineman.
Okay.
He definitely won't. He definitely won't win the award. But he's my award winner. He's been an absolute beast. That Chargers offensive line looks completely transformed.
Oh, it looks beautiful now. I mean,
looks insane.
Coming in with
him,
blowing up your
Harbaugh.
entire receiving core, right?
Yeah.
A year where you very much consider it like semi-rebuilding.
Yeah.
I mean, you come in and it's,
new coach.
New head coach Jim Harbaugh, that defense number
Jim
one.
Harbaugh, most improved coach of the year. I mean, I guess I genuinely think. I mean, he took what he took at Michigan and brought it to the league. And I think a lot of people thought, he's been out of the league for 10 years at this point, or 8 years. Like, it's been a minute. The league has changed. Patrick Mahomes is in the league and dominating, right? Joe Flacco, not so much.
Well, don't say that. A few weeks ago,
For sure. So, jumping ahead to, as we talked about our midseason awards here, Coach of the Year candidate by far, Dan Campbell. Looking at what he said last week on Call It 5, normally this doesn't happen after a blowout. Right, what was it, 52-6 to come off?
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right, normally this doesn't happen. It's a good problem to have. It's a great problem to have.
Definitely. I mean, the Lions, you just look at both sides of the ball. I think they have the best offense in the NFL right now with that running back. I mean, just the crazy duo between Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. And, I mean, what a story for Dan Campbell. I believe he was on that Lions team that didn't win a single game. And now having transformed the city of Detroit deserves this for the Lions. In my opinion, the Super Bowl favorite. Hopefully they could get it done. I'm rooting for Lions. But other Coach of the Year contenders, I mean, Sean Payton for the Broncos, Mike Tomlin for the Steelers. I mean, Rami, thoughts on the coach?
I would love to see Mike Tomlin. I think he's done a wonderful job bringing in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and dealing with that early in the season. And the entire media, everybody was saying, why would you ever start Russell Wilson? Justin Fields is winning games. He makes the executive call. He says Wilson gets the start, and look what they've been able to do. Their offense has been prolific. It's been amazing. I'm going to throw one more name into the mix, and this is, again, a little biased, but hey, here we go, right? Live shoot. So Mike McDonald. If he comes in here in the first year, takes over a head coach, puts this team in the playoffs, and they do something in the playoffs, I don't see why he wouldn't be Coach of the Year nominee. They've had a lot of injuries and things to deal with on the offensive line, and they just made some changes last week against San Francisco with Abe Lucas at left tackle. I think that they have a shot to surprise some people this season. I don't know if they were thinking about a ring, but I mean, that's their goal in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would have to go Dan Campbell. Just the culture that he's done, shifting everything is crazy, but yeah.
I mean, with just 8 weeks to go, expect plenty more chaos to come in the NFL this season. Switching lanes, Mark, what do you make of the NBA season so far?
Yeah, I mean, NBA, we're about 15 games in, 16 games in. I think we've seen very polarizing, especially in the East. I mean, between the Cavs, who are now 15-1, and the bottom feeders with, like, obviously the Sixers are there. And the West.
The Bucks are there.
The Bucks, yeah, we'll get to them. And then the West, I think usually you see the dominance by OKC early on. And I think that Western Conference is very, very stacked. They have, like, most of the conference. I think it's like 10 or 11 of the teams have winning records. So it's like always wild, wild west, and the East looking weak per usual.
Sure. I mean,
I think I'll have to agree with Mark there on to an extent. I think that the West, again, looks stronger to start off the season. No surprise there. I think that the top 8 teams would all destroy the top 8 teams in the East if they were lined up, team to team. OKC, I think it's important to point out they're going to be missing Chet for the next 8 to 10 weeks. Yeah. So you may see them drop off a little bit, but they've been still finding ways to win. I know they just lost to the Mavs the other night, but other than that, they've been doing fine. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh my goodness. Steph Curry is leading this Buddy Hield weird team to an unreal start. They're the first team in the West. Steph Curry shooting career numbers at age, how old is he now?
36.
36 now?
Yeah.
36. He's ridiculous.
Drafted 2009.
I mean,
Make me feel old.
They're talking about James Harden approaching Ray Allen's three-point record. Steph Curry broke that years ago. Right.
Yeah.
He's hundreds ahead right
That's
now.
what I'm saying. And
He's
Harden
still
is
going.
next in line.
He's still going, and
I mean,
he's going to be doing it for what, 4 more seasons? I mean, what? He's got 4 years left on his contract at this point.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about LeBron's
do you
longevity.
do?
I mean, Steph Curry, I feel the media doesn't give him enough attention. Obviously, the Olympics this summer, I mean, the French call him the devil because he was killing them that bad. And now doing it in the NBA, I mean, I don't know how they do it. I really don't know. I mean, as a Celtics fan, I know the 2022 finals. I've seen that man, and he's caused many nightmares for many fans across the NBA.
He's lethal.
Just to shift over a little bit, 15-2 to start off a season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, that's probably their best start probably in their history.
Franchise history.
If
and
not,
one of the best ever,
yeah,
period.
I mean, they're on pace for it. And, Draymond Green, going back to the Warriors there, I mean, this is his words. I think these Cleveland Cavaliers are serious, and I'm not going to tell you why. That ball was humming. My head was spinning. They were moving it so fast. I think this team, they've got something there. I like that team, right? Kenny Atkinson is my guy from Brooklyn,
First year head coach doing great.
First year coming in, and man, does that team look red hot.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Draymond Green, you can say whatever you want about him, but the man's a winner, period. I mean, 4 NBA championships. He's played the Cavs, I think, 3 or 4 times in the NBA Finals, so his words definitely hold some weight. I mean, the Cavs you see, I don't think it's a fluke run. I think they're number 2 in the East behind the Celtics. I think the Celtics are still on top, showing in that game the other day. But I think the chemistry is there. I think Evan Mobley's taking a leap. Mitchell's doing Mitchell things, and I think everything's gelling right now for Cleveland. I think they have a really good shot this season.
Not only a good shot, I think they have a great shot.
Yeah.
I mean, Rami, do you disagree here?
No, I mean, I totally agree. I don't know if they're going to continue to hold on to that first spot. Obviously, the Celtics look unstoppable when they want to be, and when they don't shoot the 3 every 5 possessions or whatever, but every 2 possessions at that point. But I think we got to look at some other teams in the East that will pick up later in the season. I really like this Atlanta Hawks team.
Yeah.
I know that Cleveland has been good defensively, but I mean, offensively, Atlanta has been unreal. They've been missing Trae Young for a few games, and I know they went in and beat Boston for one of them. So
yeah,
it's interesting to watch. I think that there's definitely some room to improve for some other teams in the East as well. So
For sure. I mean, talking about room to improve, man, dude, the Bucks and Sixers suck. I mean, they started off the year ice cold. There were talks of Giannis getting traded at the deadline. I mean,
it's
a
dumpster
mess.
fire for these teams. I mean, starting off with the Sixers, they are 2-11, tied for the worst record in the NBA behind our local Washington Wizards. I mean, it was not my bingo card this year that Jared McCain would be the Sixers' best player, which I think
I don't think it's anybody's bingo card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the Rookie of the Year favorite. I mean, Embiid's been having leadership issues. I don't know if you saw Tyrese Maxey call him out.
Very much. They called him late.
Yeah.
Right? He said he was late, and then they were getting mad at the coach about running a slow, trashy practice, it seemed like. Jeez.
Not a good locker room in there.
I mean, Paul George also. I mean, Paul George still, comes over from a pretty good Clippers team, expecting huge things from them. And, to look at call-up number 2, I mean, his words ring very true. It's still an ongoing process of figuring this whole thing out for everyone. That's no excuse. We've got to get better. But I do think we'll get to a point where we'll find an identity. It's unfortunate that it's taking a little time, but the season is long. We're 17 games into an 80-game season. We're literally about to be 20% of the way through.
Yeah.
About to be 25. How can you say you're still figuring out your identity this late into the season? I mean, like, is it abandoned ship time? Like, is it really starting to look at what we could do with moving pieces around?
I mean, if you look at the Sixers, I don't think their big three has played a game together yet, so it's not the end of the world, but things are definitely looking more bad than good. I mean, Maxey is hurt right now. Embiid, we don't even know when he's going to play. Like, big question marks back-to-back games, and Paul George kind of looked like a shell of his former self.
For sure. And, Rami, to shift a little bit to this tankathon that we're getting in, as we're talking about dumpster fires with the teams, who's going to capture the flag? Who's going to get Cooper Flag in the offseason? Who's going to be the #1 overall draft pick
that.
in
Capture
2025?
Obviously, the lottery has a big impact on it, but I think that some of these teams that continue to just lose and lose, like the Wizards, I honestly think that the Wizards could get another lottery pick with Cooper Flag. It would be really special to have him here in Washington because finally they would start winning some games, but
I don't know about that one.
we'll see. But he looks spectacular at Duke so far. He looks better than half of the Wizards players, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think that if they were to get him, that'd be a huge addition to the roster.
For sure. I mean, who's going to win the sweepstakes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go and say the Utah Jazz, actually.
Really?
They are full tankathon this season, led by Danny Ainge at GM. I just have a feeling that he's going to tell the team just to lose games. I mean, Larry Markkinen, I think, is hurt for a while, and I think they're just all in for Cooper Flag, and I think they're going to end up winning the lottery. Other shouts, I'd say the Blazers, the Nets. I mean your Nets. I think hot start, but I think they're going to cool off eventually. So I think it's going to be at least like 5-6 teams who are going to.
You see, what's crazy is just have you seen the draft pick movement that happens based off of who finished the season? I mean, we don't know who owns the Sixers pick this year. We don't know who owns the Bucks pick this year. We don't know who owns whatever the Suns, Nets, Rockets. I think Thunder are also in this.
They're in a lot of different
there's so much to look at, and I mean, it's been a crazy start to season. So let's we're like I said, we're 20%, 25% of the way season. Who's your MVP? Is it Steph? Wow. Is it LeBron? I mean, both those teams coming off starting hot.
Oh my goodness, MVP. Listen, we can't ignore what LeBron is doing at 40 years old. I'm not saying that he's going to be the best player by the end of the season. It's just nearly impossible with longevity and how old he is. But, I mean, when you look at other players like Jason Tatum or Stephen Curry, he's doing the same level of production in a night-in, night-out basis. He had 4 triple-doubles in a row the other weekend. So you can't really ignore LeBron's performance. Do I think he has an MVP season at age 40? No, unfortunately, I don't know. Father time gets everybody eventually. I'm going to have to go with, I'll say Jason Tatum gets one. Why not?
Yep, let's see.
Okay.
One person.
I would say Tatum wins it this year, but I just want to say Nikola Jokic. I mean, if voter fatigue didn't exist, I think he would have another MVP this season. I think he's still averaging a triple-double, leading this, honestly, pretty underperforming Nuggets team, still winning, dragging them to wins. So I think Jokic.
Who's underperforming on the Nuggets?
I'd say
half that roster.
Half the roster. I mean,
literally.
Outside of Jokic, Jamal Murray hasn't been playing well this season. Michael Porter Jr. has been shot chucking. Usually he makes the shots, but now he's been missing the shots. So I think just the fact that, I don't know if you saw the stat, actually, off the court, the Nuggets, when Jokic doesn't play, they have the worst offensive rating of all time, and when he's in the game, they have the best offensive rating of all time.
I mean, that makes
sense.
I mean, a pure game changer.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Well, panel, thank you for joining me. GW Sports has continued this fall. Correspondent Brittany LaVecchia is here to get you up to speed. Brittany?
2.
Thanks, Spencer. GW women's volleyball finished out their last match before they head to the A10 conference next week. The senior day match against Loyola Chicago was a narrow battle, but GW fell to the Ramblers in the 3rd set. Senior Salem Johannes led the Revolutionaries with 8 kills, 2 service aces, and 3 digs. GW will take on Davidson next for the A10 championships in Dayton, Ohio. Basketball season is in full swing, and it looks like the Revs are ready to make a comeback from last year. With 4 games so far, the team has been able to score consecutive wins. On Monday, the Revolutionaries hosted the New Jersey Institute of Technology for their Miracle on 22nd Street game, finishing off with a 20-point lead to take the win. Darren Buchanan Jr. is not showing any signs of slowing down with 20 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals. Next, the Revolutionaries will take on Kansas State and the U.S. Virgin Islands for Paradise Jam. Spencer?
Brittany, thank you so much. Now let's bring it into our F1 panel. Sarah Gorellis and Malat Malaku for their takes on the season so far and the upcoming Vegas Grand Prix. Sarah, what storylines are you looking for ahead of Vegas?
So ahead of Vegas, the big storyline that we're 100% looking at is to see if Verstappen will be able to clinch the championship this weekend. So to be able to do that, what he has to do is Lando has to outscore Max by at least 2 points to continue staying in the running. There's 64 points up for grabs for the remaining 3 rounds of the season. So just mathematically, for him to be able to continue within this race, he has to be able to outscore him by those 2 points.
Malat, what's your big take?
I think I completely agree with that statement. After the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, after we saw Verstappen go from P17 all the way to P1, and a lot of people had been doubting him throughout the middle of this season, I think he showed the people that he really does have what it takes to win the Drivers' Championship once again, whereas Lando has been showing a lot of more shaky performances the past few races. And after his performance last season in Vegas, where he actually was crashed out, he doesn't have a good record going for him, whereas Verstappen has a lot higher stakes.
Yeah, I could see that, but I could also see the same thing happening maybe to Max. We don't really know too much about Vegas. It's better than last time, not going in completely blind, but this time we know that it's going to be interesting. We know that there's things that can happen. Maybe there's going to be another storm drain. We have no idea. So I could see something maybe happening to Max and have Lando still be in this fight, but it's just whether or not Max is going to win at this race or inevitably at one of the other ones.
Well, I mean, thinking about that, do we think that there could be another crash? I mean, like we saw in Italy just a few years ago between Hamilton and Verstappen. Do we think it could be, like Prost and Senna back in the 80s? I mean, like, are we seeing, what's going to make a high-tension race, or do we think that there's going to be, very easy, clear-cut victory for someone?
See, with Vegas specifically, it was one of the most interesting races of last season. We saw 99 overtakes, which was the most of any race that season. And so I could definitely see Vegas having more of those surprise events happening. So it's definitely on the table.
What?
I would definitely say I agree, especially between the 2 McLaren drivers. Oscar Piastri has not been silent at all that he's not going to just let Lando win by a landslide in the Drivers' Championship. Although he doesn't have the same shot as Lando does to be the ultimate winner, he still has to prove to others and to himself that he does have the capabilities to be a better driver than Lando. And so I've been seeing a lot of tension between those 2 drivers especially, so I think it could be interesting what McLaren could look like in Vegas.
I completely agree. I mean, and like you were talking about, there were talks about sprint race coming up, and looking at what the F1 chief commercial officer Emily Prazer said on U.S. Sport Races on Call Up 2. We're quite comfortable letting Austin and Miami keep their sprint because we've got so much more happening anyway, and we're in a really good place. Tell me, Sarah, do you think that this is them trying to say we like the way Vegas is set up? Do you think that's them saying Austin and Miami are boring?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, sprints were created to make race weekends more entertaining. So you kind of see sprints appearing on race weekends that are maybe considered a little bit less entertaining. And with Vegas specifically, I think this organizer is 100% right. With Vegas not really needing it, they have so much glitz and glam that there's really not anything that they need to do to add more entertainment to the weekend. And also there's a bit of a struggle specifically in Vegas with how just the race is organized, because it's a street circuit and it's on the Strip, which is one of the most populated streets in Vegas, obviously. They open the street during the day and close it right before the race. While other street circuits, we see them closing for the entire race weekend or even the entire week before the race.
For sure. I mean, there's so many things that could happen, right? Tire degradation. We could see a drain cover. We could see any number of things happen. Do you think that would add to to make Vegas the best race of the season if there was a sprint race?
I think there definitely is the potential, especially looking at the standings of the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull are all a total of, I believe, or 49 points between all 3 teams. And so seeing how close they are and adding a sprint race could raise the stakes as well, knowing that there are those extra points to grab, and it could go to any of the drivers.
For sure. I mean, looking at that, I mean, we are so close to the end of the season, so much chaos to happen. F1 comes out breaking news with this brand new 2025 season launch, they expect to sell out this massive season event. To quote just from F1 themselves, Formula One will sell tickets to an unprecedented 2025 season launch event featuring all the teams, drivers at London's O2 Arena on February 18th. I mean, we've seen. I don't even know where to go with this.
I would say it's surprising, specifically from Liberty Media, because Liberty Media, since owning F1, and they've been really, really consistent on their more equals more strategy. They're trying to shove as much content down your throat as possible. And so during those first 2 weeks before testing starts, we used to have 10 separate events that were all different media events that people went to. And fans had 2 weeks of just constant content coming out, something to be excited for. And a lot of people are wondering if this big of an event is going to be a little bit of a trade-off for, instead of having those 2 weeks, to only be a few hours of really exciting things. And I think it'll be an interesting but chaotic time. Also, one of the other things that I had been seeing is traditionally, like a team like Ferrari, they present their car in Italy, but they have to travel this time to London to be able to present their car. So a lot of the teams have been choosing to only present their liveries and not the actual cars themselves. So people who are in the tech part and looking more at each car's difference in their build and their body won't be able to actually see what the cars for 2025 are going to look like until preseason testing, which is unprecedented.
I mean, that's exactly where I was going to go. I mean, do you think that, this event, which like you were saying could be, very much a glitz and glamour event, also be an easy way for teams to steal information?
Definitely, especially how you'd mentioned, Sarah, about the Ferrari typically doing their grand reveal in Italy. I think it is almost a little bit of a liability almost between the teams because they're going to be bringing their entire cars, or as you mentioned, the liveries, but also takes away a lot of the culture that a lot of these teams have, like how significant it is for Ferrari to be doing their reveals in Italy, the home of it, or even Mercedes in England and these other teams. So I think it's going to take a lot of the culture and the fan base, what they most loved about their certain teams, by all bringing them all together in one.
One of the other critiques that I saw of this was that because it's all 10 teams, there are obviously going to be teams that are going to be in the spotlight. And for the 2025 one, everyone's waiting to see Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari red.
Oh my God.
So pretty much all the focus is going to be on that. And so for some of these smaller teams who might not get the media press, will kind of be pushed to the shadows. And I know a lot of fans of those teams are kind of sad about that.
No, for sure. I mean, looking ahead to 2025, not just with the cars and not just with the teams, but with the drivers. Tell me, what is the biggest move you're seeing?
I would say definitely Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, but we've also seen 3 rookies joining in the 2025 season. Actually, the 2024 season was the first season in 55 years, that we hadn't seen a rookie. So being able to bring in all these new rookies from Jack Doohan, Gabriele Bortoleto, and Kimi Antilotti, and Ollie Behrman, giving these 4 drivers the trust in these Formula One cars, especially as Antilotti's going into a Mercedes, taking Lewis Hamilton's spot. Those are humongous shoes to fill. So it makes me kind of excited seeing these drivers who may have not been able to get the spotlight in Formula 2 to be able to show their power and what they can do in Formula 1.
I mean, for sure, talking about Colapinto, I mean, Max is super high on him. Look at this. He's doing a great job. I think also Williams is probably scratching their head a bit about what to do with Franco. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a good problem to have. You have 2 drivers who you want both of them, and you can't have them because you got Sainz coming as well. I mean, is this literally the best development year Williams can have? They have a car that's coming up. They have drivers coming up.
Yeah, I think it definitely 100% could be because of Colapinto's just his coming into this. I mean, he is one of the most anticipated drivers for the next season, behind probably Kimi Antonelli. But I'd say just all of this is showing a trend of teams becoming less conservative with these drivers. Like you said, it's been so long since we've had a rookie in the race for the season, and this time we're kind of seeing how the teams have been taking those chances. And it's also probably because a lot of these teams have been keeping an eye on drivers for a lot longer than they had previously. Drivers are coming in more prepared than they ever have been because these teams are looking and getting them to do simulation work for them when they're in Formula 3. And so they keep an eye on them for so long that they're kind of more willing to put their trust in them with these really expensive cars.
For sure. Well, Sarah, one last question. who's going to win it all and which team wins the constructors? Start with you, Milad.
It's a hard question for sure. I'm going to say I think Ferrari could do it. I would say they have shown the most consistency throughout the season. Sergio Perez this season has not been his best season. He hasn't had a podium in over 16 Grand Prix. So that showed that Max has been having to carry essentially all the weight of the team this entire season. And whereas McLaren, I believe, could also do it, I feel like their performances the last few races haven't shown that to finish off the season that they could really pull it off. But I think Ferrari has been picking up their pace these past few races. As since Monza, they've had a podium every single race. I think they could really continue that streak and ultimately win the Constructors' Championship.
Sarah?
Yeah, I also have to agree with that. I could 100% see Ferrari leave Vegas with that #1 spot. I mean, you saw last year Leclerc's performance in Vegas. We don't got to talk about science, but we could see if Charles was able to do that on the car that he had last year, he was 2 seconds behind Max when he did not have a car that should have been 2 seconds behind him. So I could definitely see them pulling something out where they could come in and take that first place spot. I could also see infighting be a little bit of the downfall with McLaren because we have seen more and more of that tension building with Oscar and Lando, and I could see that definitely maybe messing them up in Vegas or after.
Well, I mean, F1.com writes, given one team can pick up a maximum of 44 points in Las Vegas, it's still all to play for. Qatar also offers more points due to the sprint, which we were talking about, with 59 available there. So all three teams will still have ambitions of taking the championship. So much left to talk about, so much left to cover. Panel, thank you so much. For more on the latest in GW Sports, correspondent Ashley Robinson is standing by. Ashley?
Thanks, Spencer. Women's basketball suffered a 40-52 loss on the road against the Ohio Bobcats at the end of last week, bringing them to a 2-2 record. Junior Filippa Callisto led GW in scoring, followed closely by grad student Mariana Planas Fortune. The Buff and Blue return to the Smith Center tonight, looking to turn their record into a winning one against Towson. Men's and women's cross country wrapped up their seasons at the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional last week. Junior Jacob Heredia led the charge for the men in 37th place, while junior Sarah Mitchell led the way for the women with a 54th place individual finish. The Lady Revs ended in 17th out of 30 teams, while the men took 10th place against a tough field. Now over to Rami and Dan for Unstoppable's Top 10.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Hello and welcome to the GW Unstoppable live stream. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Rami Anas Jr.
And I'm Dan Salim. We're so excited to show you all a special live edition of Top 10 Plays. Let's get into it with number 10. It's Joe Mixon, who scored 3 touchdowns against Dallas, dropping a significant 35.3 points in fantasy football and leaving the Cowboys once again defeated in their home stadium. Sort of sad, Rami, but I'm not really surprised.
I will never bench you again, Joe Mixon. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I doubted you, and you just went off this week. He was great. He was truly great.
Absolutely.
The Cowboys have a lot of questions to answer, though. Coming in at number 9 is the Tennessee Titans. From their own 2-yard line, Will Levis is dealing with some pressure, but he launches it to Westbrook Akine down the sideline for a 98-yard score against the Vikings to put him right back in the game in the second half. Unfortunately, they would go on to lose this one as Minnesota is just the better team, but oh well.
And coming up at number 8, Jared McCain drops 20 points for his 5th game in a row with the Sixers, despite their pitiful 2-11 record. But, I have hope, Rami.
He's honestly the best player on the Sixers right now, so it's good to see. Coming in at number 7 is Jordan Love's Green Bay Packers. What a season they've had so far. Jordan Love rolls to the right, launches it deep for Christian Watson. Double coverage, no problem. And if you watch this game, you know they won on the blocked field goal. I'm so sorry, Bears fans.
And coming in at number 6, Reed Blankenship makes an iconic interception against Jaden Daniels on the command of the Commanders, and the Eagles win puts them at the top at the MSC once again. As a proud Eagles fan, pretty happy about that.
It was a good game. Coming in at number 5, it was a wild Sunday night game. The Bengals almost came back, but J.K. Dobbins runs it all the way to the end zone with just a few seconds left in the fourth quarter to win. The Chargers would go on, put them back in the playoff race. What a great win.
And coming in at number 4, the Cowboys just constantly keep finding new and creative ways to lose horribly, as the Texas forced to
fumbles on the Cowboys offense in the same play, then returned the ball for a touchdown. A very good play, especially in the fourth quarter with only about 12 minutes left.
Coming in at number 3 is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're tied 117 apiece with the Phoenix Suns. Julius Randle, buzzer beater, you bet. He had one in the first half as well. Timberwolves win 120-117. What a great win.
And coming in at number 2, it's the golden boy. It's Steph Curry, who gets active in the fourth quarter during the Mavs to win the game, dropping 12 points against Klay Thompson.
He was just phenomenal in the fourth quarter, and it was such a cool thing to see all the Mavs fans wearing all those captain hats for him. And coming in at number 1, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills as Josh Allen on 4th and 2 against the undefeated Chiefs goes past 6 different defenders and drives all the way in to the touchdown, icing the game and giving the Chiefs the first loss of the season. Well, that's all from us tonight. Thank you so much for joining the GWTV live stream.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on our next episode of Unstoppable.